pó, pó, pó. Foi quando topei com você que a coisa virou confusão num salão. Porque parei.
So Gilberto Gil, he's Brazilian. He's been active musically since the mid-60s, which is quite a long time. And he's people in kind of America and Britain think they want to be rebels and have message and be noticed for something. Well, Gilberto Gil did just that. So in Brazil in 1964, there was a coup, and the music that he was involved in the mid-late 60s, he was involved in a thing called the Música Pública Brasileira, which I don't know much about, and Tropicalia movement, which I read up on. It's a bit fascinating. But he was somewhat of a rebel. As a result, he was imprisoned for 9 months in 1969 and then told to leave Brazil. And he left and he moved to London, and he was there for 3 years before he managed to get back to Brazil. But he continued to record whilst he was there. After he got back later in his life, he's got involved in politics. He was actually a Brazilian minister for culture for a few years, and is also an environmental activist. He's been prolific. I counted 64 albums in the list, including 4 in 1998 alone. He's created a huge amount of music, and I vaguely heard of him before, but never really looked into him. Hi, my name's Dan. So this was the second studio album by Gilberto Gil. I'm still not absolutely confident about that pronunciation. It's one of 3, at least, albums that he released under his own name. So I had to make sure I was sure I got the right one here, and I'm pretty sure. And I would describe this, I think it's the first time I've heard this album. I would describe this then as being a mix of Brazilian samba and bossa nova mixed with 1960s rock. A bit like, if you can imagine, The Girl from Ipanema meets the Beatles and the Byrds. There's definitely kind of a bandy, orchestra 60s style thing, such as you might have had for 60s TV shows going on. But also there's the rock band Os Mutantes, who are a Brazilian band. I don't know if they still exist. And it's an interesting mixture. There's also bits of sound effects, and there's bits of kind of speech and found recording stuff going on in here as well. So it's quite a bizarre melting pot in some ways. I find this kind of music generally, particularly the kind of Brazilian end of this, pleasant. It tends to have this kind of lightheartedness to it. It's got a lot of energy to it. There's quite a few quite upbeat, fast numbers in here. And it's a style of music that I enjoy, both styles that kind of put together. So yeah, good. There's quite a few different variations in here. There's a few of them that sound more like the kind of psychedelic hippie stuff. Has got some influence in here as well. It's kind of a bit more like the Eastern Indian stuff, but not a huge amount of that. The singing is, I presume, in Portuguese. I'm pretty sure of that, actually. I don't understand it, of course, but it's nice. I like Gilberto Gil's voice. It's got a particular way of singing that seems to be quite, in quite a few other Brazilian things that I've heard. So there's this particular style, which is quite slightly breathy, but breathy is not the right word for it. I always find it really hard to describe voices and the way that people sing differently. But it definitely suits the mood, and it's quite mellow and feels like it's kind of the opposite of rock singing, which is can be in your face and growly and stuff. This is kind of light, that feeling. Not that it's kind of empty, and it's well done. There's quite a few places where it's kind of go bub, 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 along with the music as well, and I really like the feel that gives it. So overall, it's a nice album. I enjoyed it. It's interesting. It's fun. I wonder, potentially I might like it even more if I actually understood the words of what's going on here. I'm fairly sure that this was an album which was probably quite important in Brazil, and may well have been part of the Tropicalia movement, which was a thing around at that sort of time for a few years. So that's what I think. As always, I'd love to know what you think, so please talk to me through the comments box. That's it from me for now.
Era rapaz de 25 anos. Era rapaz de 25 anos. Hoje ele morreu atropelado em frente à companhia de seguro. Que futuro, rapaz de 25 anos. Hoje ele morreu atropelado em frente à companhia de seguro. Que futuro, rapaz de 25 anos.